Previously on X-Men.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the world's most mutated podcast. That's right. It's Uncanny Treks covers X-Men 97. We're up to episode 7. Matt, can you see the end? Can you see the end in sight?
I'm a little worried, Bob. I don't want to get to the end. I'm loving this ride too much. I don't want to get off the ride, so let's just let it keep going.
It's a good ride. Our last 3 episodes, I can't remember. Is that all a 3-parter, according to the episode name list?
Yes, they are. They're all combined. So I think it's the start of some war or something that they keep alluding to.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. We are Uncanny Treks covering X-Men 97. We're on episode 7. It was called Bright Eyes. So, Matt, back in our preview episode, I can't remember, did we think Bright Eyes would refer to Gambit or to Sinister or to Sunspot, or was it someone else?
So, Bob, I personally predicted that it had to do with Rogue zapping Cyclops' powers and having red eyes, so she had bright eyes. But apparently, after watching the episode, and we actually alluded to this in our coverage of X-Men 92 versus Young Justice, when Cable shows up, Rogue goes and punches him, and I can't remember the specific episode, but she punches him and it calls him Bright Eyes.
Okay. So it's more of a Cable reference.
Yes, it's a Cable reference, because he has that one bright eye.
Speaking of Rogue, we could go ahead and get started, and we could also call this episode Rogue Cut Loose or something. We have her rampaging for vengeance for Remy, and we have her storming a military base run by Thunderbolt Ross, which Thunderbolt Ross I don't think was in the comic, but I think this incident was inspired by at least one, maybe 2 late 80s comics. In one of them, Rogue attacks the Pentagon. I don't quite remember why, but it's a very vivid scene in my mind.
That's like a weird 9/11 reference or something. Like
I was gonna make a 9/11 joke and say that like Rogue was like the invisible plane that hit the Pentagon or something, but honestly, I can't remember what the lore is about the Pentagon and 9/11, so I couldn't pull the joke together.
But you do remember the lore of Rogue, so that's good to know.
Look, man, there's a lot more chance that I can have, as somebody on the internet, influence on Rogue's character than I can on 9/11 Truth or the U.S. government. So I focus my energy where it matters.
Well, Bob, I focus my energy on Thunderbolt Ross, who will be played by Harrison Ford in the upcoming...
Is it Thunderbolts?
Captain America 4 with Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon is trademarked by Nintendo. That's a character from video games.
So you think Harrison Ford playing Thunderbolt Ross is awful, right?
Oh, yeah, Bob. I know I jokingly say
that.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
That's terrible, Bob. They could have just found somebody to look more like the guy that passed away, in my opinion. I wish they just would have done that. Then I wouldn't have noticed. But now, there's Harrison Ford, Han Solo in a movie.
Oh, did somebody already play Thunderbolt Ross in the first Hulk movie or the second Hulk, but the first MCU movie that I've never seen?
That is correct, yes. And he also played him in certain, I think may have been in Winter Soldier. At least there's some other films. There's so many films. I don't know. He's made a couple of appearances, but then the actor passed away.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, Harrison Ford, I mean, the man had a great career, but he's terrible now. He's old. He doesn't care. And I mean, I'm not saying he should care. The movies he's in are mostly very bad. But he was terrible in Star Wars. He was terrible, I presume, in Indiana Jones 5. I didn't actually see it. He was terrible in Blade Runner 2, which was a great film. They managed to work around him being terrible, but he was terrible in that too.
Yeah, and for me, Bob, too, I know that we went and saw what we thought was going to be the last Indiana Jones film, like the Crystal Skull or whatever the stupid thing was called.
Back in 2008, wasn't it?
And that was terrible. But then they came out with the newest one, and I can't even watch it I don't want to watch it for free. That's bad. You know how I am. I'll watch anything.
Yeah.
Jesus. I can't even get myself to push play. Now, I will say I do want to see this, though, Bob, just because before I die, I want to see CGI Harrison Ford Red Hulk. Just to see it. Just to see it. I want to see what they do.
Oh, it's going to be awful, but like you say, somewhat interesting.
Yeah, it's a car wreck. I want to watch it.
I looked it up, and it's William Hurt played Thunderbolt Ross, and he not only played him in the Hulk movie and Civil War.
Oh, Civil War.
It doesn't appear to have been in Winter Soldier, but he was in Civil War. But he also played him in Avengers 3 and 4.
Oh, well, he must have played a huge part because we neither one of us remember.
Yeah, and he was in Black Widow. Anyway, R.I.P. William Hurt, who's a great actor. All right, we've got Rogue going 9/11 on the Pentagon, making Harrison Ford, a.k.a. Red Hulk, a.k.a. Thunderbolt Ross, angry. And then we've got something that I didn't really like. So we have the X-Men looking at going to Genosha after the attack. It's very shades of the Morrison run. It's even shades of the weirdest Excalibur comic ever published, which was Chris Claremont's Excalibur comic that came right out after the Morrison run, where it was like Xavier and Magneto in the ruins of Genosha. There's a little bit of shades of that. And then we have Beast quoting Mr. Rogers, which really annoyed me.
Was that not sophisticated enough for you, Bob? You like your Beast to have it nobody's ever heard of?
Beast should quote more obscure people generally, based not on me being pretentious, but just on what he does in the animated series. And I also, it's not worth getting into, but I don't like Mr. Rogers. I find him annoying.
He was an assassin, Bob, in the army.
Really brings it together.
So he was covered in tattoos. No joke. No, I'm kidding. He wasn't really, but that was like the big thing for a while when the internet first came out. One of their this conspiracy things that Mr. Rogers was actually a hitman in the war.
Back in those days, it was just Mr. Rogers conspiracies and Chuck Norris jokes.
Yeah,
that was all the internet was.
It was amazing.
All right. So we also see in the ruins of Genosha, we see that Amelia Vogt survived Genosha, which we didn't see her in episode 5, did we?
Yeah, I think we did. I think she was there. I mean, it wasn't she played a big part.
I think I probably just assumed she was Madeline Pryor because there's too many redheads.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of redheads.
And unlike you, Matt, I don't have an eye for women's hair. It's a unfortunate trait of mine.
But Bob, do you have an eye for strong guy? That's the real question because I
did have an eye to strong guy. I was very excited.
I've seen more strong guy in this series than I saw all through the 90s. The only time I ever saw strong guy in the 90s was that one episode with X Factor, Cold Comfort, and then his action figure warmed the pegs of Walmart for years and years and years.
Be nice to Strong Guy. Strong Guy's cool, man. I didn't have that many, but I had a few 90s X Factor comics when we were kids, and so I'm fond of Strong Guy from the 90s X Factor.
I never really understood his look, though. He looks like an old man at the top of his head.
I'm not going to be able to explain this quite right, but basically his mutation isn't that he's a strong guy. His mutation is that he absorbs kinetic energy and converts it to muscle mass.
Oh, okay.
So that's why he's like so bulked up, and that's why his head is almost buried in his shoulder.
He's an awkward looking dude.
Matt, were you surprised by the huge cameo this episode?
Bob, we had Captain America. Although I'll be honest, Bob, they decided to spoil this cameo with a coming soon commercial type thing.
Oh, I totally missed it.
I know, and that's why I never said anything to you because I'm that kind of friend, Bob.
Thank you.
I didn't want to ruin the spoiler. But
unlike me, whose spoiler ruined Star Trek Discovery for Matt, spoiler, by telling him they unmasked the Breen, because I know how much Matt loves Star Trek Discovery, and I know how painful that spoiler would be for him.
I thought Bob hated Discovery, but apparently Bob's watching it anyway. So I was on the bandwagon of I'm just not going to watch it. I'm just going to let it end with whatever I can remember of it.
Look, Matt. They're going to have to really work to make me not watch every Star Trek. If they actually do the Starfleet Academy show, that'll probably do it. I probably won't watch the Starfleet Academy show. But I've seen all 900, all 1,000 episodes of Star Trek. I'm going to keep going for, what is Disco, season 5, 10 episodes? Yeah. I can do that standing on my head, brother.
Bob, he could do this all day.
I watched all of Fallout for you, man. I'm going to watch all of Star Trek Discovery for myself.
For those of you who enjoyed Fallout or we'll be releasing an episode about Fallout. We'll have coverage of that. I thought Bob was only going to watch the first episode. Find out Bob watched all the episodes, and I was surprised, Bob. I really thought you were going to watch the pilot. I
did watch the pilot.
Yeah. Then you watched the remaining episodes all the way to the end.
2 a night, baby. 2 a night. So I will say the Captain America cameo, really great. Initially, I was hoping for Captain America versus Rogue, but honestly, Rogue just throwing away his shield actually was cooler.
That was awesome. That's so Rogue. I mean, I wondered, though, if it was just flying back at him.
He's not Captain Australia, Matt. It's not a boomerang.
No, the Anthony Mackie thing, they explained he has a magnet thing on his arm or something. They explained it to us. And I thought maybe that I didn't like.
Was that in one of the movies, or was that in that Falcon Winter Soldier?
Winter Soldier show.
maybe I'm being delusional, but I would assume that magnet thing has a pretty limited range, right?
I would
Rogue probably put it out of range.
I would think so. I wish she just would have hurled it in space. That would have been even better. But and then Professor X finds it on his way back. I found something for you out in space.
Professor X is both the Emperor of the Shi'ar and the new Captain America. Yeah. So I did think it was also interesting to bring up this context from the comics. So we've had 4 Uncanny Avengers comics over the years since 2012. They've done 4 different series, although 2 of them were basically miniseries and only 2 of them were ongoing. Have you read any of those, Matt?
I have not, Bob. The only thing I know anything about when it comes to Uncanny Avengers, I purchased a action figure of Havoc. And I was really excited about it because this looks like Havoc. He's in his cool outfit. I get that. He's not the right. It doesn't look right. That is the worst Havoc costume ever.
Do you remember what was different about it?
There was no thing on his head. The really cool thing. And
it was the black jumpsuit, but not the mask.
Without the silver piece on his head. I mean, it is silver. There's a drawing. He looks like Black Bolt. And that bothers me. Did I buy a Black Bolt figure or did I buy Havoc? I wanted Havoc.
Interesting. Yeah. Famously, Havoc in the first Uncanny Avengers speech. Look, I'm quoting people here. I'm not saying this, but Havoc has what I think many people on Twitter now and at the time would describe as an Uncle Tom moment in that series, and it's wrecked the character a little bit, honestly. And you did read Uncanny X-Force, right?
Oh yeah, I'm about halfway.
So this gets confusing, but the X-Force you're reading now, I believe, is the X-Force that came out right before Uncanny X-Force.
Hold on. Uncanny X-Force.
It's the Rick Remender wrote it. It's Deadpool, Psylocke.
Wolverine. Oh no, I did not read that. No, sorry, no.
Oh, I thought you had that. That one gets a lot of hype. Read it when you're through with the because Matt, for people listening, Matt's reading the X-Force that ties in with Messiah Complex and Messiah War.
Yeah, and that stuff is crazy. That's violent X-Men.
Oh, Uncanny X-Force is more violent and crazier than that. And it's also in some ways, I don't want to overhype it, but in some ways it's a little bit of a sequel to the Morrison run. Uncanny X-Force is good, but then that writer Rick Remender, went on to do Uncanny Avengers at the same time as the Matt Fraction Fantastic Four and the Jonathan Hickman Avengers. Mm-hmm. And that Uncanny Avengers was a little bit of a sequel to Uncanny X-Force, but I think it's really bad. And not just because of the Havoc stuff, but I also just don't like how it writes Rogue, how it writes a couple of other things. But yeah. But anyway, in Uncanny Avengers, both in that series and in the later series, none of which I'm a huge fan of, they really do have Rogue as a mainstay of the Uncanny Avengers team. And even though I don't like the Uncanny Avengers comics that much, they do develop an interesting relationship between Rogue and Captain America. So in context of that, I just thought it was interesting to have the more antagonistic Rogue and Cap relationship here.
I would love, though, to see them fight. Maybe they're saving that for the MCU, Bob.
Although on a certain level, right, it just wouldn't be fair, right? Rogue is Captain Marvel powered, right?
Oh, yeah, she'll kill him.
Yeah, she'll kill him.
which we find out later. Rogue's okay with that. She's okay with killing
people. Okay with that. She's okay with that. We'll get to that soon. So I will say on the era of threatening Rogue, when she confronts Gyrich, right? Gyrich tells her that your cute psychic probes won't work, to which Rogue's reply is, honey, this ain't that sort of probe. And I thought she was going to go UFO ET on him for a minute.
Yeah, I don't wonder what was going to go down there, too. She pulls her glove off, and never really thought about it that way. I'm sure that's happened in some X-Men comic.
I hope not, but possibly. And then, Matt, were you stoked at what we found buried underneath Genosha?
Yes, we find Diamond Emma Frost, Bob. She's got her second mutation.
Yep. Straight from the Morrison run. Very exciting. I was super pleased.
Now, is she going to play a larger role? That's the real question. Or is this just a little hint, wink, hey, she made it?
I would tend to bet no, maybe in season 2, but not in the rest of season 1. But then I have to say on the other side, I've really underestimated how many characters and how much plot this show has been able to pack into 20, 25, 30-minute episodes. So I could be wrong. She could be pretty important for the end game.
And I'm wondering, too, are we going to see more secondary mutations? Because there's a couple that I would like to see personally. I'd love to see Iceman get a bulky look, like that armor, and even the cloning of himself, that thing. My algorithm is now X-Men and 80s music videos. That's about the whole algorithm. And
Sounds better than my algorithm, brother.
well, who else? Give me some other secondary mutations that may be interesting. You can think off the top of your head.
This is going to reveal me as a fake fan because I can't think of any great ones off the top of my head. The only one that does come to mind is Beast going more cat-like in the Morrison run as a secondary mutation.
I would like to see that too, because I always felt Beast's design was too closely related to Wolverine's. Apparently the Stepford Cuckoos can fly. That's one secondary mutation.
Elixir getting gold skin.
Wolfsbane. She got the ability to split into 5 wolves. Oh, so what, you weren't excited about Toad getting a flaming tongue?
Actually, that does sound cool.
Angel got healing blood.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget? That's from one of the worst X-Men comics ever. Oh, that's great. Yeah, how could I forget Angel's magical healing blood? Oh, that's awesome. I should have researched this, but I didn't. Sorry, fans. I'll let you down. Sometimes in the comics, Sunspot's father is an important character. He's a member of the Hellfire Club and what have you. But I have to confess, I don't know if we've ever actually seen Sunspot's mother in the comics. I would tend to say no, but I could be being a moron and forgetting something.
Yeah, the whole scene with Sunspot and his family was, I mean, that was obviously just a coming out thing.
Yeah, and it really was interesting how they did the 1-2 punch of, oh, we've always known and we love you, son.
I know, I was excited.
But you gotta keep it secret.
Yeah.
But you gotta keep it secret.
Shot me in the heart. This is so cool. Yes. This is what they're trying to, and then, damn it.
The stockholders would be very concerned.
But I was also like, it's 1997. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and it was a 1-2 punch because shortly after we actually see Rogue sobbing over Gambit. That was very sad.
It was sad.
Did you clock Morph as being sassier than this episode than usual? I mean, they're often sassy in the season, but I just felt like this season they were super sassy.
Way sassier and not as obnoxious with sassiness. Which, to me, in the 92 series, he was a little more obnoxious to me. In this, they are funny, yes. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about Morph in a minute, a little more.
Let's just keep going from victory to victory. So, Matt, you got your Bastion.
Yeah, last week I talked about Bastion because he keeps making these little appearances throughout the season. There were at least 2 different occasions he shows up. So I was thinking, and then I happened to be reading that X-Force comic you mentioned earlier, and he's in that. Yes, everything I'm reading now is like lining up with this stuff. So I feel like Bo DeMayo just was reading this shit and was, how can I turn this into a 30-minute episode? Oh, we'll put this. How can I turn this into a 30-minute episode?
Sure, I assumed the comic would be more, or the animated series would be more 90s than 90s. Mm-hmm. And it has done that a little bit, but yeah, as we've said before, the true sources for this seem to be the late 80s and then the aughts. That seems to be like the eras they're really drawing from.
Man, those are great X-Men comics.
Certainly. I'm having a great time with it.
It's fantastic.
So, Matt, were you surprised when Rogue bloodied her hand a little bit?
I was, Bob. She just flat out drops Trask off a building, but it was a cop-out because then he turns into some zombie thing. I mean, do you think Rogue was right in dropping him off the building, Bob?
On a moral level, I think it's certainly justified. On a consequential level, I guess we would have to know more about what the situation of the mutants is in the Marvel Universe. How likely is Rogue killing Trask to inflame anti-mutant sentiment, things like that. But yeah, sure, just on a straight up moral level, yeah. I mean, the man's a genocidaire. It's perfectly appropriate to kill him.
Yeah, they're referring to him as Prime Bolivar. I missed that sentiment. I don't know what that's going on there, but this leads to my quote, Bob. Remember, I've been coming up with quotes that you probably can't use anywhere else. And at one point, Prime Bolivar asks Cyclops, "How does it feel to be abandoned by the future?" Where are you going to use that, Bob?
Oh, that's pretty easy. I thought the line you were going to say was going to involve the phrase Prime Bolivar. Oh, which because I don't have any friends named Prime or named Bolivar, and I don't think I'm likely to get friends named either. That was going to be challenging. But yeah, I could say that to literally anyone in contemporary America. How does it feel to be abandoned by the future? I mean, Matt, we were promised the end of history and a beautiful, peaceful world, and America's currently doing a genocide. It's very easy to ask, how does it feel to be abandoned by the future? That's not challenging.
I couldn't find a better one, Bob. That's the best I could come up with. You're supposed to give me some good X-Men. It's the one drawback. I need these quotes for Bob that he can't use, but he can just use them anyway. All right. Well, Bob, let's go back to Morph for a moment. Morph.
All right, Matt. So I'm going to have to take us. I'm going to have to apologize to the listeners because I've been vehement. I've been adamant in the position based on earlier episodes of this season and that one episode that's a spotlight episode on Morph from X-Men 92. I've been adamant that Morph doesn't get the powers of the people they transform into. I've said Morph just takes the form and they use the form or they use the increased size, but they don't get the powers, and I'm wrong, apparently.
Yeah, this was a huge thing on Reddit. Like, there was a big discussion, and everybody was throwing in their 2 cents and all this crap. But people are saying they can imitate powers at a lower level than those that they are mimicking. Which
That seems ridiculous.
And then some say that they were just running really fast, and it wasn't Quicksilver's speed. It was just Morph running really fast.
So Morph takes on the form of Quicksilver, which, nice cameo, first of all. But yeah, that just doesn't make any sense because you can justify, okay, Morph hardens part of their skin to be Colossus, or they turn part of themselves into a sword to be Psylocke. Like, that's justifiable. But yeah, getting Quicksilver's speed, or that they can fly as Angel or Archangel, that makes sense. But yeah, the turning into Quicksilver and getting the super speed makes no sense, right?
Yeah, but this is the second time we've had this, like, random character shows up and they end up being Morph. It made me think that I thought maybe I just missed Quicksilver on the team at some point, or with Archangel.
Oh, you mean it's in the premiere of the season when Angel shows up, and both you and I for a minute are, oh man, did Angel just join the team? And it's no, it's Morph.
And same with Quicksilver here. He just shows up, and what's going on with that? Then it's Morph.
I will say I was totally fooled by Angel for whatever reason, maybe because Morph was pretty prominent and sassy earlier in this episode. I wasn't so taken aback when they showed up as Quicksilver.
I don't think... I'm hoping maybe the comic book, the tie-in comic, will explain why their powers are the way they are.
I mean, on a certain level, maybe I and the people holding the theory were being a little ridiculous because is shapeshifting and getting the powers any more ridiculous than shapeshifting, right? No, on a certain level, no, not really. So I don't know. Is there anything really to explain?
Yes, Bob. What if Morph turns into Multiple Man? Think about that for a moment. Do they get the same powers as Morph? And then they can morph into other things as well? So you can have your own team of X-Men that are just Morph? How does that work?
My theory would be no, that only Prime Madrox... I can't remember with Multiple Man... Is it only Prime Madrox produces the dupes, or can dupes produce dupes? I can't remember off the top of my head. And it might change at various points in Madrox's history. But I would say, though, I would tend to just assume that only Prime Madrox that Morph is impersonating produces dupes. And the dupes produced by Morph as Madrox wouldn't have Morph's powers. Does that make sense?
It does make sense to some degree, but I still think it's insane.
The one that would be more concerning to me would be if Morph just becomes Storm or Morph just becomes Phoenix. Is Morph an Omega then?
Right. Like, how does that work? That's why their powers are at a lower level. I mean, come on.
But why would they be at a lower level if they have them at all? Why assume they're at a lower level?
Because he's not using because they are not using them the way... I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. Plot device. Let's leave it at that. I don't know, Bob. It's a good question. Yeah. It's a burning question. People are wondering about it. I'm hoping that the comic book answers it.
I don't get the feeling it will based on the first 2 issues, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Morph appeared in the last issue at the very end. So
yeah, but I just mean more the style of the comic. It doesn't strike me as something that they're going to dwell on in depth.
I just need a throwaway line. I just need a Professor X made it where he unlocked my ability. I don't know, something. Give me something.
Well, to keep rolling, I will say that Sinister and Bastion is a really interesting alliance. I don't think we've seen Sinister make a deal with anti-mutant people in quite this way in the comics. Although certainly Sinister is a ruthless guy, would be willing to ally with whomever. But it's interesting to see Sinister and Bastion together. And then there is dialogue from Bastion about him evolving from an old enemy, I wasn't quite sure of who to take that from. Does that make sense?
I'm
Or
thinking
who he was saying he evolved from.
my understanding is he's either talking about Nimrod and Master Mold, which is from the comics, that's who he evolved from, or Apocalypse, because they keep showing Apocalypse in the opening, which is set up for a whole
Yeah.
different type of thing.
Well,
Regardless, I think that's going to be. I think they've got it set. I really do think it is Nimrod and Master Mold, is what he's referring to.
that seems right. I guess I was getting hung up with. I can't remember how they handled Nimrod in the show, but in the comic, it's almost always framed as Nimrod is from the future, although not so much in House of X and Powers of 10. But before House of X and Powers of 10, it was usually framed as Nimrod from the future. So maybe I was just hung up by the terminology about old enemy.
I mean, it could be Apocalypse. That's the only other thing I could
I have faith that if DeMeo and the show are going to have it be Apocalypse, I have faith that they'll justify it. But my initial reaction to that would be negative, though, because where I can see Sinister cutting a deal with an anti-mutant bigot, that's not something I can see Apocalypse doing. That's not it. I don't think that's in his possible universe of motivations.
Nah, that's not happening.
Maybe that's just because the Krakoa era has made me really like Apocalypse. I love Apocalypse in the Krakoa era. He's awesome.
That's pretty awesome. So, Bob, you skipped over a couple of things here.
What did I skip over?
What about Cable, Bob? What about Cable showing up?
Oh, I did skip over Cable. Matt, would you feel emasculated if your son showed up and he had the biggest gun you'd ever seen and he saved your life? I think I would feel a little emasculated. Your suddenly adult son.
I probably would too, Bob. And he's way taller and bulkier. Did you notice that? Than either of his parents. It makes no sense on a genetic set. He does not look like their kid.
Matt, it's a show about mutation.
He doesn't look like their kid.
It's a show about mutation, Matt. He's a mutation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay.
Also, we don't know what Sinister or Apocalypse or just people in the future got up to with his genetics, and also, I mean, we don't know what Sinister did with Madeline's genetics or even Scott's genetics while he had him abducted. The last thing I wanted to raise before we go to Character of the Week, Matt, we call it X-Men 97, but it sure felt X-Men 92 when Bastion goes all Reservoir Dogs on Magneto. It's Michael Madsen. Bastion goes all Michael Madsen on Magneto.
What is the end game here, Bob, with Magneto? What are they going for?
I mean, bad things need to happen to Magneto. I guess that's the spirit of X-Men comics.
I think Magneto's just going to go full out, going to hate humans again, destroy everybody.
Do you think he's going to actually lose the ear, like the cop loses the ear in Reservoir Dogs?
I think he should. I think that would make him a better character.
I really hope they do the gag where Michael Madsen has the severed cop's ear, and then he taps it with the straight razor, and he's like, "Can you hear me?"
That's so disturbing, but I could probably see it happening in X-Men in this X-Men 97 universe, since there's so many uncensored type things that you would not expect in a cartoon.
I will say, just to really gross you out, my boy Noah and I started watching a Mexican Western on Prime called The Head of Joaquin Murrieta. Good show. And there's an evil American cavalry officer in it who looks like Nick Nolte. And the Apache shoot him with an arrow in his ear, and it burst his eardrum. Ouch. And so he has this constant ringing, and it's driving him nuts. And so at first he razors off the remains of his ear, and that doesn't work. And then so he puts the razor in the fire and then sears the side of his head until it stops the burst eardrum from ringing. It was so hardcore.
That's awful, Bob. I can't wait to eat my dinner. Gross.
I want you thinking about ears as you bite into that Meat Lover's pizza you ordered, Matt.
Well, here's the deal, Bob, too, and this will make you sick. I'm gonna tell you, I rewatched Deadpool 2 because
I'm sorry.
It's the one movie that my wife will watch that's superhero related. She watched Deadpool. She watched Deadpool 2. We'll go see Deadpool 3 together. Deadpool 2.
That's just because you want to see Taylor Swift as Dazzler.
Oh, that's why she wants to see it, yeah. But I'm telling you, Deadpool 2, Bob. Deadpool 2 is a great movie because Cable is in it. I'm talking, you get the whole, it's Cable everything. I mean, it has Hope in it. It has all that. It's all the stuff.
Oh,
You need to watch Deadpool 2. I think you would actually like it.
But I hate Deadpool, man.
Bob, do you like Ryan Reynolds?
Not really.
Well, then never mind then. Don't watch Deadpool 2, Bob. I'm just telling you. If you like Cable, you're going to like Deadpool 2.
I like Cable. ironically, I would say.
They even formed their own X-Force, Bob. It's awesome.
If you do like Cable, maybe you should go ahead and read the Dwayne Swirsky Cable that's happening at the same time as the X-Force you're reading.
That's what kills me about X-Men. It feels like you used to be able just to read the Claremont run and be, okay, cool, and you had New Mutants. Now it's like everything has its own side story and everything. You made me read an entire, it was a great comic, but you made me read an entire volume just about Beast trying to solve a problem.
But it was good stuff.
It was great. Yeah. No, it was great. It's just I can't believe how many different damn side plots they have for X-Men. You can't just read the main line. You have to read everything, or you're gonna miss stuff. That's the problem.
The one Matt's talking about, I think, is Endangered Species.
Yes,
right?
Endangered Species.
Yeah, and I like that because it's Beast has to join a mad scientist evil alliance with Mr. Sinister and Dark Beast.
Yeah, Dark Beast. Yes, that was correct. I mean, it's like insane. It's a bunch of side characters doing side, but it's awesome. It's just I can't. That's the amazing thing about X-Men. You have so many characters, so many books,
that's why I don't. That's why I can steer clear of Deadpool, Matt.
I know, but it's a movie. There's only so many movies.
All right, Matt. Any other thoughts before we go to character of the week?
No, we're good, Bob. My character of the week is Rogue because this is a Rogue-centric episode. Rogue kills somebody, straight up murders somebody. Yeah. She throws Captain America's shield out into the middle of. I mean,
she puts Thunderbolt Ross in his place.
Yes, there's so many great things Rogue does in this.
Yeah. This was arguably even easier than episode 5, where we gave it to Gambit. Because even though Gambit owned in episode 5, there were so many other good character beats in episode 5. And there are good character beats in this episode too, but nothing compares to Rogue in episode 7, Bright Eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Maybe if anything comes close, it's just Cyclops' look when his son shames him. All right, ladies and germs. This has been Uncanny Treks covering X-Men 97, Episode 7. I am Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.